everybody, this is Sherry at djsundry.blogspot.com, and today starts the very first day of the 12 Days of Christmas Tags series that I'm going to be doing. Now, I want to give you a little bit of background on how this idea came to me. Several years ago, we were living in a very small town. The town only had about 800 people in the wintertime in it. And one day, my husband was pastoring a little tiny church, and one day we went to a larger city to do some grocery shopping and some other Christmas shopping and some different shopping. And when we got home, there was this little tin on our porch. And it was very odd. It was a little metal tin, and it said something to the effect of, "On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me." And when we opened up the tin, in it was a piece of English toffee. And we thought, this is really odd. I wonder where this came from. Now, of course, being from bigger cities all of our lives, we were a little nervous. Well, should we eat it? Should we not? We were kind of wondering what to do. And the next night, another one showed up. And the next night, another one showed up. And every night for the next 12 nights, a different tin with a different goodie showed up on our front porch. We never could catch who did it. And then finally on Christmas Eve one night, there was a knock on our door, and there was this family who lived in our town that we were acquainted with, and they had been leaving us these gifts. So I saved the tins, and the next year we found someone in our city who we were acquainted with, but we didn't really know that well, and we returned the favor. And it was always a lot of fun to try to make sure that we wouldn't get caught. And then on Christmas Eve, we knocked on her door and gave her her final gift and told her who we were. So unfortunately then my tins were all gone, and I tried to figure out a different way to do it, and I think we did it another year where I just hand wrote tags out and we gave it to a neighbor, and it was a lot of fun. And then last year I stumbled across, I was on the internet looking for things, and at that point I was just starting to get back into crafting again after nursing school, and really wasn't. I was making Christmas cards and different kind of cards, but I hadn't really planned on hand making tags. And I ran across this site, and I've put the link in the post that was introducing this section or this series, and I'll also put the link on my blog to where you can find these tags. And it was a lot of fun. It was the same concept, but each day it actually gave a suggestion on a gift to go with it. So last year we cut them out. They're printable, and if you're not interested in making tags or doing anything like that, you can just print them. They've got holly and berries on it, and then cut them out and still do it. And it's a lot of fun. You know, Christmas is about giving, and it's about the most important gift that we could ever have received, and that was the gift of Jesus Christ coming to later die on the cross to save us from all of our sins. And he came as a baby and he gave his life for us. And when I give gifts, I'm remembering that ultimate gift that he gave to me. And I love to give gifts to people. So this year, I haven't quite narrowed it down to which neighbor I'm going to do, but it's going to be a neighbor that doesn't know me and who I'm sure doesn't look up my blog. And we're going to carry on the tradition of finding someone else to surprise. And so I'm still using the same phrases as from last year using the tags, but this year we've typed them all up, and I'm making my own tags, and that's what the 12 Days of Christmas Tags is going to be about. Again, as I mentioned, I'll post the link of where I found the tags, and I want to be sure and give credit to where it's due, and this lady did a fabulous job on these tags. Now, one thing I do want to say is when I copied the tags last year to save, just in case I couldn't find them again in the future, they did come, as I mentioned, on a pre-cut tag, or a pre-printed tag. All you have to do is cut it out. And when I tried to copy and paste it, the way it's designed, you can't copy and paste it. So I actually had to type out each individual, or actually had my son do it, type out each individual tag by hand. So just be aware of that. And it's at Family Crafts at about familycrafts.about.com is where I found these tags. So let's get started on day 1 of the 12 Days of Christmas tags. Now, I have chosen the Joys of the Season Christmas cartridge for this year's tags, and the reason I chose it is because the first several buttons on this cartridge are following the theme on the first day of Christmas. So the first one is a partridge in a pear tree, the second one is 2 turtle doves, and on like that. Now I'm just cutting, and it will probably vary from day to day, but today I just cut the phrase a partridge in a pear tree, and I cut the partridge sitting in the pear tree and its layers. I'm not using the tags from that because I wanted to do something different. I learned something, however. I decided that 1.5 inch cut was about the right size for my tag, and so I printed it all out in this really pretty printed paper I had at 1.5 inches, and then using the shadow feature, I printed it out in a green to shadow it. Unfortunately, at 1.5 inches, it's delicate enough that the printed paper that was thinner and also not as bulky just tore when I was trying to bring it up off my mat. It's just too delicate. So I ended up just using the shadow feature here for my phrases, but it turned out really well. So I am going to be, for this year's tags, I'm going to be using this cartridge as the basis for my tag. Now I'll be doing other embellishments and other things on different days, but for this year that's what I'm going to do. So let's get started. The other thing that I'm going to do, now I have the tags, bags, boxes, and more, but this year I wanted to use this manila colored tag. So if you have tags, bags, boxes, or more, or maybe you don't have a Cricut at all and you just want to hand cut some tags and put stickers and things on it, you're welcome to do that. But I encourage you, play along with this and make some tags and find someone. Be thinking now, you have a few days. You just start 12. I made it for me that I would start 12 days before Christmas Eve, so that day 12 landed on Christmas Eve, so that I wasn't disturbing anyone's family Christmas on Christmas Day, but it would all be revealed by Christmas Eve. So you have a few days to be thinking about who you want to start making these tags for. So I use the number 5 tag for this because I really like this manila color. And these are something you can just pick up at an office supply store. I think I paid $5 or $6 for 100 tags. So I will be using that on probably all of the tags in this year's series. And that comes with a little shipping tag on it, and at least today I don't want that. I'm just setting that aside. So for today's, I took it and made it the font the way I wanted, and then I printed it on red paper, and then I tore it, and we're going to talk about tearing a little bit more. But so my phrase and my little sentiment is all printed on my red paper that I tore. For today's tag, I'm also going to be using 3 different distress inks. From the Seasonal Distress set, I'm going to be using Festive Berries and Evergreen Bough. And then I'm going to be using Frayed Burlap distress ink. I'm also going to be using some glitter glue from Studio G. And then my paper that I used for my phrase was just paper that I had in my stash of scraps. And I'm going to try as much as I can to use up some of my scraps for this project. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to prepare my tag. Now obviously this isn't the way the tag's going to look. We're going to have some fun with it. So I have my different distress inks, and we're just going to distress it a little bit. I only have 2 of the little ink distressing ink applicators, so I use makeup wedges when I don't want to take the time to switch it out. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with the frayed burlap, and I really like this frayed burlap. It's a nice match for the manila or kind of manila colored tag. And I'm actually doing it on both sides. We want the tag to look finished on both sides, and because part of our message is on one side, and then on the front it's kind of the introductory for the tag. Now you don't have to ink the center of the tag because most of that's going to be covered. So to save some time, I'm just inking around the edges and just going around, just normal distressing, just like you would distress anything else. And you can play with it and find something. Now with this red, I'm going to distress, or with this green, I'm sorry, I'm going to distress the edges of my red tag. And it doesn't, you can't even really tell that it's green, but it just makes the paper look a little bit old and a little bit more vintage. And that's kind of the way this tag will look when it's all done. Now, I'm also then going to use the red berries, and just, now the red berries, if you haven't used this, it's very bright, so you want to be pretty gentle with it because it definitely just has a punch. Now on the one side, I want to come down a little bit further here because my paper doesn't, actually on both sides to some extent, because my paper doesn't go clear to the end of the tag, and so we don't want that tag to be unfinished on the ends. Now that's a little bit redder than I really want it to be, so I'll go back in with some more frayed burlap and just kind of soften that up just a little bit. I mean, I like the red, but I just don't like it to jump out and say Santa Claus Christmas red, because for this particular tag, we may have other tags that I want to do that, but for this tag, that's not the look that I want it to have. So that pretty much finishes up that one, and one of the sides is almost complete. Like I said, I tore this particular tag, and now what I'm going to do is just adhere it right down to the back of my tag. And if you haven't torn paper before, I think it's a lot of fun. I used to do it just for a stress release, but I like just kind of tearing my paper there, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. So now we've got our sentiment on the back. Now this has just a tiny rip in it just from when I was tearing it. You do have to be careful when you're tearing, and so I'm just going to glue that down a little bit so that it doesn't catch and we lose it. Okay, so there's the one side of our tag, and we'll just turn that over. Now for the front, I also need some paper to be torn. And so what I want to show you, if you've never torn paper, there's a trick. If you tear it, you want the side that is going to be the top towards you, and you want to tear towards you. And that shows the torn edge. If you do it the opposite way, your torn edge will be on the opposite side, and when you distress it, you really won't see it. Now, if you don't want a distressed edge, then that would be fine. But I want a distressed edge, and so I want to tear my paper towards me. And about there, you can see I'm not very precise about measuring it. I just kind of go with it. Now, again, I'm using scraps for this particular thing, so I have to be really careful with my tearing on this piece because the scrap was just barely wide enough to tear it all. And if I tear too much off, I will just lose it, and I won't get to, it will be too narrow, and I don't like the way, I need it to be wide enough so that my letters will fit on it completely. So, and it's always nicer, I like it better if I can tear it in a more continuous piece, but in this one it just didn't tear that way. And let's see, I think I'm going to go in with the frayed burlap to just distress that. The green isn't a perfect match against the green of this particular Christmas paper, so I don't know how much green I want, and I just kind of want it to look old and torn. So that's good enough for what I want to do. Let's try to get the right lids on the right pads here, and we'll set those aside. So you see, this isn't taking too long once I knew what I wanted to do. as always, designing what I want to do takes the most time. And as usual, I am not just making one set of tags as I go through this project. I'm making the set for me to give to my neighbors. I also had a giveaway on my blog earlier, a week or so ago, and I am giving a set to the winner of that giveaway. So I need a set for her, and then I have another set that I'm doing for someone else. So this is just going to go right there, just like so. Okay, so now we've got some paper. Now that doesn't look like much yet, but it's starting to take shape. So now what I want to do is I want to grab my words, a partridge in a pear tree, and put them on. I just want to set them kind of where it's close to where I want them to end up being at the end of the project. Now I don't want them necessarily to be straight. I want them to kind of be drifting around on there. And then I also cut the partridge. Now I did this a couple of different ways. The first time, on one of the tags that I made, I distressed the partridge and the pear, and then on the second tag I did not distress it. I need a little more ink to decide which one I liked better. And I decided when I saw both of them side by side that I liked the distressed partridge in a pear tree better than the other. So we're going to start with our little partridge here and just grab our glue pen and just put some dots on. It doesn't take much glue, and even though this glue will dry clear, I really don't want a lot of extra glue. I've learned that even though glue dries clear, it still leaves a residue that I don't always want on my projects. So that's just going to go just like that. And then now now that I have my partridge and pear tree on there, I can start arranging these close to where I want to go. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the right place because I'm going to have to lift each piece up anyway. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's start with tree here. Again, I cut these out at 1.5 inches using Joys of the Season Cricut cartridge. Have my Christmas music playing in the background very quietly. I love Christmas music, and I just a week or two ago added it all back onto my phone so that I would have it. I usually don't have it there year round because it's just, I don't want to take up space, but I was ready to get it out and start listening to Christmas music. And right now I've got a little bit of Celtic Women going on in the background. This is really a lot of fun to do, to give to people. Last year we had new neighbors that had just moved in just, I don't know, a month or two before Christmas. We didn't know them well, and they had just moved in. So my son, because it was somewhere that he could go, we would wait until it was dark and he would sneak over there and try to make sure they didn't catch him. And probably in about day 8 or so, I would say, he went over there, and when he came back, he had this little plate, and I can't even remember now, but it was a plate of goodies, and it had a little note on it, and it said, "To whoever is leaving us gifts," and it was just a little thank you note. I think maybe they thought we wouldn't reveal. It's kind of the idea of a Secret Santa thing, and but it was so much fun, and it's fun to get the kids involved, and they get really excited, and they want to be the one to try to not get caught leaving the gift. And so it's always fun to try to get over there late enough at night or early enough in the morning that you won't get caught. But I live in a very cold climate, and sometimes it's a bit tricky making sure that whatever you're taking over isn't going to be ruined or frozen in the morning. So that's always kind of part of the considerations. It's a lot of fun. So here's our tag, and there's a couple more things I want to do. Now for this one I chose to use the maraschino twine from the Twinery. However, as cute as it is and as much as I like it, it's a little bit brighter than what I wanted. So I thought, maybe I can do something about it. So on my other tags, I took the frayed burlap distress ink, and you guessed it, I just kind of distressed up the twine a little bit. Sometimes I forget to think of the little details, like does that match, or I can't find the perfect match, and I don't like the final outcome because I just didn't have the product on hand that I wanted to make it all match. And so it's nice when you can come up with something like that, kind of thinking outside of the box just a little bit and making everything match a little bit better. So there is our tag. I'm going to trim it just a little bit, but not a whole lot. And now for the last step, and I debated about this and I decided I'm going to do one without and one with. And when I was all done, I decided that I was afraid that by adding the glitter glue that it would take away from the more vintage feel. But it really doesn't, and it really makes the letters pop against that printed background. So I am just putting a thin layer, and this is from Studio G. I would think that, I don't remember if I purchased this at Walmart or if I think I got it at Michael's or Joann's or somewhere, but look at Walmart, because now that Walmart is carrying Studio G things, this is fairly inexpensive glitter glue. It runs about $1 a bottle, and it just really, I thought, really made these letters pop. And because it's a clear glitter glue, the green is picked up, the little sparkles pick up the green from the lettering that I chose and just give it this really pretty iridescent green, glittery, I don't know even how to describe it, glittery green clear, I guess you would say, fill. And so that gives us our first tag for the 12 days of Christmas tags. So come back tomorrow and we'll make day number 2. I did that one upside down, but that's okay because it can just flip. And come back tomorrow for day number 2 of the 12 days of Christmas tags, and let's see what fun thing we can add, what embellishment can we add to tomorrow's tag. Thanks for watching and have a great day.